All right, everyone. So this video is going to be about our last topic in this chapter, which is about the resource utilization measures. So basically what you're trying to do over here is you're trying to see whether the resources that are there in the business are being properly utilized or not. The people that you have, the employees, are you actually, are they working for the full time? Are they taking too much of breaks? Are they not working? So this is what you find out with the resource utilization measures. The very first one which you have is the efficiency ratio. How do you measure the efficiency ratio? So the formula for the same is expected hours to make the actual output. Expected hours to make actual output. And this has to be divided by the actual hours taken. And this needs to be multiplied by 100 so that you get an answer in a percentage form every time that you give your answer. Multiplied by 100. So this is the formula that's there for the efficiency ratio. So let's suppose in an example, let's suppose I am working towards making water bottles. So one water bottle according to the standard should take me 2 hours to make. In reality, I have made 10 bottles. I've made 10 bottles and my actual time taken is, let's suppose, 25 hours. So my efficiency ratio is, in my numerator, I'm supposed to take the expected hours to make the actual output. So my actual output is 10 bottles. One bottle is expected to take 2 hours. So my expected hours to make the actual output will be 2 hours for one bottle, and I've made 10 bottles. So 2 multiplied by 10 becomes my expected hours, and 25 hours is the time that I have actually taken to produce these 10 water bottles. So my answer becomes 20 divided by 25. Now 20 divided by 25 gives you, multiplied by 100, so it gives you 80% as my efficiency ratio. That means I have an efficiency ratio of 80%. If 100% is the best work, I am working at an efficiency of 80%. Now coming to the next ratio, which is known as the capacity utilization ratio. Capacity utilization ratio. This basically wants to check that for how many hours am I available? Are we using me for the entire time available? Are you using the employees for the entire time that they are available? So actual hours taken divided by hours budgeted. So this is the formula that's given for the capacity utilization. It's all going to become further clear when we practice a question from the study hub. And the third and the last ratio is the production volume ratio, or the PV ratio. So the PV ratio basically measures, let's write it in the next line. So how do you measure this is that you take the expected hours to make actual output, and this needs to be divided by hours budgeted and needs to be multiplied by 100 to give a percentage answer. So this is the PV ratio for you. Another relationship which can be established is that if you multiply your efficiency ratio with the capacity utilization ratio, so you have expected hours to make actual output divided by the actual hours taken. And here you have it in the numerator. So if you multiply these two together, this and this will get cancelled. So you will be remaining with expected hours to make actual output divided by hours budgeted, which is exactly the PV ratio formula. So another relationship which you can note down with you is that PV ratio is equal to efficiency ratio multiplied by the capacity utilization ratio. So these are the formulae which are there with your resource utilization measures. Now let's head to the ACCA study hub where we'll be practicing one more numerical. All right, so now here's again the Winston Football Factory example in front of you. Here they've given you all the information which you require and they want you to calculate the efficiency, capacity and activity ratios. So the very first one, which is the efficiency ratio, we've learned the formula. The formula are also, you'll be able to find them over here on the study hub. So the efficiency ratio is expected hours to make the actual output divided by the actual hours taken. So let's see what the information is telling us. In 20x5, 5100 footballs were sold and produced. Initial production volume was 4800 footballs. 9600 labor hours were budgeted and 10400 labor hours were actually worked. The standard labor hours per football are supposed to be 2 hours. So budgeted, actual and standard labor hours have been given to us. So let's find out the very first one, which is the efficiency ratio. So how do you work out the efficiency ratio? The formula that we have learned is expected number of labor hours. So expected is given to us as 10,200. How do we work this out though? You can also get to 10,200 by taking the number of footballs which were produced, which were 5,100, multiplied by 2 hours, which is supposed to take for the one football. Now, this is your expected labor hours. This needs to be divided by the actual labor hours. So, equals to this divided by the actual labor hours that have been taken, which is given as 10,400. So, the workers are only 98% efficient and not 100% efficient. Now talking about the next ratio, which is meant to be the capacity ratio. So under the capacity ratio, what we're doing is we're checking whether how much ever the workers are supposed to work, have they worked that much or not. So we compare the actual labor hours with the budgeted labor hours. Your actual labor hours are 10,400 and the budgeted labor hours were 9,600. So when they should have worked for 96, they have worked for more. They have worked for 10,400. So their efficiency over here is more than 100%. They have worked 108% of their capacity. Now let's talk about the activity ratio. Activity ratio is nothing but your PV ratio. PV ratio is also known as your activity ratio. So how do we work this out over here is that you will take the PV or the activity ratio. So the formula that we have learned right above is that expected hours needs to be divided by your hours budgeted. So expected hours to make the actual output is 10,200 and this needs to be divided by the budgeted labor hours which was 9,600. So here you get to 106% roughly. So this is what you arrive at. Another way to do it is 108 multiplied by 98%. That's also going to give you the very same answer. So with this, we are through with this chapter, the resource utilization measures, and also chapter number 25, which is about the performance measures. I hope that you have been able to understand the concepts with the videos. If you have any queries, please feel free to ask me.